Voss artesian water from Norway. Splendidly still or luxuriously sparkling. Voss artesian water from Norway.
Disaster Planning and Response Art Rescue is a first responder for the world of art, providing planning, packing, evacuation, conservation, and storage for all your treasured possessions.
What we do here is I invite 3 celebrities who don't know each other and a known chef who cooks for them. So over food and wine and chocolate, the unscripted conversations flow. So that sounds pretty fun, but what's even better than that is that you guys are all a part of it. So you guys are also getting food from Sable Kitchen and Bar, you're also getting Lost Water, you're also getting Vos's chocolate, and later at the end of the night we'll have some David's tea. So that's pretty good, but in addition to that, you're also part of the conversation. So everybody pull out your cell phones, get your Twitter fingers ready. You can Twitter in your questions to me and every one of the guests at the table to Fear No Art, CHGO. Fear No Art, CHGO, and our hashtag is the dinner party. You have a little bit of competition though, because we are streaming live tonight on the Sun Times Splash section. So everybody who's watching us on the Sun Times, welcome. And you can also Twitter in your questions for the people on stage. And if your tweet is picked by my wonderful social media director, Allie Drum, who's over there, taking all your tweets, she's taking the best ones and she's texting them to me on stage. So if your tweet is picked, you can win dinner for 2 at Sable, you can win signed books, CDs, posters, theater tickets, lots of good stuff. So you're going to want to make sure that you're online. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do that while I thank my sponsors, whom I love and adore. So of course, again, Lost Water, so glad they're with us, Vos's Chocolate, David's Tea. I love the Sun Times. They've been so wonderful to us, and we are streaming live on the Sun Times now. If you want to tell your friends who may be stuck in traffic or have decided to stay in, they can watch us live on the Sun Times, chicagosplash.com/dinner party. So everybody can join us online, which is great. We love, of course, Windy City Times, and my first sponsor ever, DPR Art Rescue. And I love them. I wouldn't trust my art handling and shipping and furniture and art conservation to anyone else. Okay. That should be enough time. You should be online by now. So now that you're all up and ready to Twitter and be a part of this conversation and be a part of this dinner party, let me introduce our fabulous lineup. We have such wonderful guests tonight. Our first guest, international best-selling author. Please welcome Scott Turow.
This is kind of perfect timing because my next guest is very sexy and very naked. What's happening here? So I might be getting naked? What's going on? All right. Please welcome burlesque dancer, Michelle Lamour. Hi, Michelle Lamour. Adam, I'm going to keep using this until you tell me otherwise. So our third guest, very exciting, you know him and you love him, music critic, NPR, Sound Opinions host, Jim DeRogatis. Join us right here. So a couple fun things are happening today. today that are different than usual. And that would be, you have the best Christmas and Hanukkah gifts ever tonight. And that is right after the show. I think we're having a book signing, are we not? We're having a book signing. The author's here. You'll want your gifts. Done, check, off the list. So be sure to stick around afterwards. And something else that we're doing different tonight, very exciting. We have someone who's going to be sketching the whole show live, and you're going to be able to watch her do her magic. So please welcome fashion illustrator Rosemary Fanti. She's going to be working her magic right now. I would be remiss if I didn't say that the wonderful Heather Turow of Sable Kitchen and Bar is working very diligently for us. And so she's going to be out in just a second. But I'm going to take a seat and sit down with all of you guys. So what I like to do is thank you, is bring people together who you wouldn't think have anything in common, but actually have a lot in common. And you guys actually, all three of you have a lot in common. And I want to get to that right away. But first, I think since the house smells so good, maybe we should check in with the kitchen and see what she's up to.
Hi, welcome to the dinner party. My name is Heather Turow. I'm the executive chef at Sable Kitchen and Bar, right here in River North. Today I'm making for you a Three Sisters toasted oat risotto with fennel, spinach, and some fresh herbs. I'm going to start the risotto by first getting a saute pan hot. I think a lot of people use saucepans, but we find that heating it up into a saute pan seems to really keep it fresher, doesn't get it as gloppy, if that's a word. It's gonna get some just chopped fresh garlic. Just want to be careful that it doesn't burn. You just want to release once you start to smell the garlic, then you'll actually see that it's ready to go in with the risotto, which we've already started. So this is the toasted oat risotto that we've par cooked, which is helpful because it takes a long time. Start to finish, it takes about 40 minutes. So we don't have 40 minutes in a restaurant. So just halfway cooks it. I like the oats instead of using a boreal rice. It gives it a really nutty flavor. It's also gluten-free and it's really vegetarian friendly. So at this point you just want to start adding mushroom stock or vegetable stock slowly. So what you want is to get a really creamy texture. We made this simply by taking all the scraps of our mushrooms and celery onion. We made our own mushroom stock, but certainly you could use vegetable stock if you have it, or chicken stock if you don't want it to be vegetarian. We're going to let the oats really absorb the mushroom liquid, and then we're going to, before we add any more of the stock to this dish, you want to just keep stirring it so that it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. You also notice that I'm not seasoning it right now with salt and pepper. I'm going to season it at the end, or I find that once it reduces down, it gets too salty. So this is something great that you could make at home and do ahead. You'll really impress your friends by thinking you've spent all day on this when actually most of the preparation time would have happened the day before. So halfway through, we're going to add the freshly sliced fennel, which we just took regular bulbs of fennel. And this, we just took a fennel bulb and we took the tops of it off. We just thinly sliced it on a Japanese mandolin, but you certainly can do it with a knife as well. This has a nice anise or licoricey flavor to the dish. Really kind of brings out that toastiness of the oats. So this is just going to cook right into the risotto. It looks like we need to add a little bit more liquid. And the one thing about this dish is you kind of have to stand over it and watch it. You can't leave it on the stove and walk away. This is something that you can do while your guests are hanging around you and drinking wine. All right, so this, I just have some freshly roasted mushrooms, which you could do ahead of time. I prefer this method, just to toss the freshly sliced mushrooms in olive oil, salt, pepper, roast them in a hot oven at 450 degrees until they're roasted. This is looking good. You'll see as the oats are really starting to absorb the liquid of the mushroom stock, so that'll really start to finish the dish and really give it a great mushroom flavor. This recipe is very versatile. You could put kale in it, you could put sunchokes, whatever's in season. Then I'm going to add just some spinach leaves to this dish. Again, you could use kale if you wanted to. And this is just fresh chopped herbs, which is just this is a mixture of flat leaf parsley, rosemary, and thyme. We're going to season it with salt and pepper. So I'm just going to cook it a little bit until the spinach is slightly wilted. We don't want to overcook it. This looks like it's the right consistency. We don't want it to be overly thick. So we like to serve it in a bowl. Certainly can serve it on a plate or on a large platter if you're having your dinner party at home. I'm just going to finish the risotto with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Pecorino Romano cheese, which is a sheep smoked cheese, but you can use any cheese you would like. Parmesan would work, or no cheese at all if you're vegan. And then this is just micro marjoram and micro sage, but you can just use regular marjoram and sage leaves if you have them. And that's it. This is our toasted Three Sisters oat risotto, wild mushrooms, spinach, and fresh herbs.
Great. So we should have Heather with us, I think. She maybe is taking a little break from the kitchen. In theory. Here she is. Great, Heather. We have a microphone for you. Oh, there we go.
When they said it was hanging up, I didn't realize what was going on. Hi, everybody. How you doing?
So who's been to Sable? Awesome. Isn't it awesome?
If your hand is not raised, you must come.
Yes, no, it's a group effort. All of us are going to Sable together.
Just, we'll get out, we'll go now. When we're done, we're open till 1 a.m., so we're good.
So I read that you have been wanting to be a chef since the age of 4.
Yeah, my parents tell me I asked for spare ribs and artichokes on my 4th birthday, and it was, we always got to choose what we wanted, and I think they thought I was a crazy little child, but yeah, I don't know. I never really wanted to do anything else, so it kind of seemed fitting. I grew up in Vermont, and we kind of just, we didn't really realize that my parents were really teaching us farm to table without really knowing about it.
Amazing.
Tapping our own maple trees and foraging for mushrooms and hunting and fishing and gardening and all of these cool things that I do. I don't hunt, but you know, canning and preserving. So all those things that I try to incorporate today.
This actually doesn't surprise me because if you go to Sable, you'll see that a majority of the menu is veggie based, and usually what people do with vegetables, it's this afterthought that really is just like butter on a bunch of vegetables because everybody's so meat focused. And you of course have meat and fish at Sable, but you have this huge vegetarian focus.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends who are vegetarian or vegan, and I always hate when you go to a restaurant and there's nothing for them to eat. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
So there's so many great things that you can do with plant-based items. So we just decided to put a farm and garden section on our menu, and we're actually kind of known for vegetarian items now, which is great. So we've kind of opened up our whole world at Sable.
Yeah, because it's such a creative section in the menu.
Well, and it's all half and whole portions, so everything's small. So you can. This is on our menu now, and you can. We try to utilize as many local farms and farmers as we can. This comes from Three Sisters. If you guys know Tracy Val and her sister, they run this great company, and they make grits and toasted oats, and it's pretty amazing.
It is.
She was the chef at Frontera Grill for a long time, and she decided to become a farmer, so we love that.
Yeah, no, it's super good. Well, okay, I know you're also working in the kitchen on our entree, so we won't keep you, but you'll be back here to join us in a little bit.
I will, and anybody else who's vegetarian, just let your server know I have something special for you for your second course. All right?
Wonderful. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Yummy. All right. So I brought the three of you together because I think you all have something in common. And if you ask anyone in the audience, really basically you all have a dream job. So, of course, Scott, international author, best-selling author, well-known for his books that, you know, thriller novels that are turned into movies. Everybody's always wanting to quit their job and write the great American novel. So I think you've got a great gig. Most people would love to, if they're not shedding their clothes, they're doing something else that they feel is sort of living their life to the fullest. They're skydiving for a living, or I mean, you have really turned sort of a love and passion into a moneymaker, so we'll talk about that for sure. And then I think every teenage boy in the whole world actually wants to be a music critic. So.
Well, yeah, until you have to review the new Britney Spears album.
And how you suffer, Jim, how you suffer.
I listen so other people don't have to, yeah.
Thank you for doing that work. So I wanted to ask all of you, what has propelled you to this point? Is it luck, or is it your passion? Anybody and everybody.
I mean, I always tell people to try to follow their bliss, because, you know, even if it doesn't work out, it's a life lived without regret.
Right, right.
I think, sorry everybody, I kind of lost my voice a little bit, so.
It's not just part of her persona.
Yeah. I'm not usually this cute. So.
It's kind of sounding Sarah Silverman.
Yeah. Yeah, I think passion definitely has to be there to keep you going, because it's a very long, long road. Following your dream is probably the hardest thing that you could do. And no one really tells you that. They just say, oh, just go and do it, and it's full of rainbows and unicorns. Yeah. But it's not. It's full of a lot of roadblocks and a lot of people telling you, no, you can't do that, or no, you can't take your bra off, you know.
People tell me that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I think critic is one of those words these days, like reporter or liberal or Democrat, that the word has been stolen by the other side. You know, a critic is someone who comes out and shits on your good time. Okay,
gosh, you know, darn them.
And it's not about that. You know, the opinion is the least of it. It's a passionate exchange of ideas about art, whether we're writing about food. And my wife is the dining editor of the Tribune, and so, you know, Phil Vitale is a great food critic, and, you know, he loves to eat, even almost more than me, all right? And you go into every artistic experience hoping that it's going to be transcendent and the best that it can be.
Yes.
And, you know, you don't want to be disappointed, and when you are, it's your honest emotional reaction to this work of art, and if somebody else loved it, you don't mean to take them down, but you know, but you're sharing your reaction, and you want to hear what other people think. And that's what we do on the radio show. It's kind of ideal. I mean, and that's what my mentor, Roger, did a million years ago, Ebert with Siskel. You know, the two of them could I mean, it was great when they clashed. One loved something, one hated.
Sure.
But they could love it they could both love something, and you got two perspectives. They could both hate something, and you got two different perspectives.
Yes.
How do you reconcile, though, the requirement of journalism that it be entertaining? And especially, you know, somebody who's been reviewed hundreds and hundreds of times, I really don't mind when a critic has an honest reaction.
Yeah.
It's the snarkiness that gets under your skin.
Yeah, well, some critics are assholes. Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that the lack of professionalism is unforgivable. You know, I mean, they have to know how many books you've written and where you're from and how to spell your name, you know. And I think that in this age of everybody having, you know, 24/7 nonstop social networking communication, that some of the important things, I mean, when you're reviewed by Michiko Kakakuni in the New York Times,
right,
it's done right. You know, when you're reviewed
you
by...
say.
Well, all right. Love it or hate it, you know she read your book. And she spelled your name right.
Yeah, Michiko is known for writing sentences that cannot be quoted as blurbs later. They're so convoluted that nobody can quote them out of context. So it's a kind of genius.
I never get blurbed. I've never been, you know, nobody ever wants to quote me. And Roger told me that's a point of pride. When they can boil down something complicated that you're saying about a work of art to, you know, and of course he's the inventor of thumbs up,
Yes,
you know,
yeah, right, yeah.
which he regretted to his dying day, you know, because he didn't think that it should be reduced to something that simple.
Well, I wanted to ask all of you, that sort of plays into what you were saying. What then makes great entertainment? Because you, after all, in the end, have to keep people on the edge of their seat. You are all about entertainment. And you are less so as a critic, but of course, thank you so much, you see so many people who are about entertainment. So what makes great entertainment?
Well, I mean, I think it's something that can appeal to people on all levels. So, yes, I'm definitely about entertainment, but I'm also about the art of the tease, and I do think it is an art. And I think, yes, we can all take our clothes off, and we do it every day, but how can you do it? What can you do to make it interesting? What's surprising? What can you do that people maybe haven't seen before, or something that people are going to grab onto and remember? And, you know, the art of it is appealing to me, and also making the art accessible to people.
Well, not to be too brainy, but, you know, Aristotle said the function of art is to both enlighten and entertain. And, you know, I was a graduate student and writing fellow at Stanford before I went to law school.
Yeah.
And I always said that my goal was to write novels that would be of interest to both bus drivers and English professors. And that's the, you know, what Greg already used the word, you know, transcendent. But you have to, in my view, you can't have a big audience if you're not willing to entertain.
Willing to entertain, not willing to entertain. What do you think?
In rock and roll, it's real simple. Don't be boring.
Yeah.
You know, don't be boring.
So I'm surprised because for me, I think the things that are the most entertaining are the things that are authentic. So you can tell someone who's trying to hit the pop chart, just to use music, but it could be other things, just trying to be popular, versus someone who's really functioning from their core. So sort of to the first question about passion, I always say for myself, like, I knew that I was in the right job when I had what I call the bingo effect. So my skill set met my passion. And at that point, I wasn't just functioning at like 90% of myself or 100% of myself. I was functioning at 125% of myself because I had that sort of bingo effect. And so when the cross blocks come up, you're just feeling so empowered because it's so authentic. It doesn't really matter what people say. And there's that joy of being authentic too. So I don't know, I find that things, I'm able to follow people when they're authentic.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter what people say, but people can be pretty harsh.
Yes, right.
Everybody's got Twitter, and everybody's got Facebook, and they can put these judgments out there with no repercussions and leave YouTube comments and all of that stuff. And I think that's pretty cowardly. But, you know, and it can hurt sometimes if you are functioning so much from your core, because you are putting yourself, you're exposing yourself completely.
Yes, literally.
And the other problem is that authenticity is not everything. You know, the audience does matter too.
Yeah.
And their reactions matter, and yet, you know, what Michelle's saying is, you know, you can't be guided by the worst among them.
Right, exactly.
Trying to win their praise.
Right. Yes, what do you think?
Well, authenticity is this word that, you know, in the postmodern era, we're supposed to completely disavow. You know, in certain circles in pop music criticism today, Justin Bieber is as valid an artist as Kurt Cobain, you know, and it's all showbiz, right? And therefore we should have, now, I've met Kurt Cobain, and I know young Mr. Bieber, right? And I know which one I think is more authentic, and it doesn't have anything to do with what became of Kurt sucking on the shotgun. You know, I think his heart and soul was in that music in a way that it's not in many performers. I think when you perform and when you do your naked reading series, I mean, what a noble idea.
So do you guys know
naked
this?
Literature, that's wonderful.
Go ahead and explain to everybody what that is.
I do a show right down the street, actually, called Naked Girls Reading, and I've been doing it monthly here in Chicago for about 4.5 years. And it's a literary salon, and it's exactly what it sounds like. There's naked ladies who come out. We wear heels, though, come on. And we read literature, and we pick a different topic every month. And, you know, it's beautiful because it's so vulnerable, and we pick things that we're passionate about and we want to share with people. And really, like, now our sort of secondary goal since we started it is let's bring back the book. No one is allowed to read from the Kindle. No one. And we have chapters all over the country and world, and that is our rule. No Kindles, no Nooks. It's all books, because we think reading is very sensual. And we like how the books smell and how the pages feel, and you know what's the font, and it's the weight of it, and it's very sensual. So we want to bring all of that together.
So Scott's new book is identical. How do you feel about naked ladies reading your book?
I'd be very interested in that.
So since we're talking about some interest, usually I ask everyone here to perform so that you get a little sense for what they do. And I opened this up to Jim, and he said, well, actually, I play in a punk band, and I have somebody that I would like to perform in my stead. So why don't you tell us what we have coming up?
Well, you know, I co-host Sound Opinions with Greg Cott of the Chicago Tribune.
My mistake.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I'm the more handsome one. He looks like Siskel. The idea of the show is two guys who are passionate about music having this conversation with a third person who is you at home. So we're on BEZ here in Chicago, and we're on 160 stations. And we do this segment, the Desert Island Jukebox. You know, it's the hoariest, oldest game in music geekdom, right? The one album you would take with you today, at this time and place, to a desert island. So, you know, I personally think that the greatest album ever made is a record released in 1977 by Wire, as an English art punk band at the burgeoning of the punk rock explosion in the UK. But Wire were a little older and smarter than, say, the Sex Pistols or the Clash. They were these pretentious English art fucks. And I say that in the very best sense of the word. They were brilliant. And what they tried to do with Pink Flag was, in 21 songs, in a suite of songs that ran in one into each other, none of them longer than a minute and a half, was, as they said, cock a snoot at the history of rock and roll. So they condensed everything that had happened in rock up to that point into these 1.5 minute explosions of energy. And so I figured I would have Louis play. I mean, you know, I would ramble about it on the radio show, and Cott would say, yeah, 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 and then we'd play the song. All right, that's the segment, and then it's his turn next week. So I figured I'd have Louis play it, but, you know, we can't do it, you know, yeah, I am in a punk band with Louis. He plays bass, and we have a friend who plays guitar. And, you know, the idea of punk was anybody can do it. I have no talent whatsoever. I am not a musician, I'm a drummer. You know, but we need it, and we play like 22 songs in 18 minutes. And so Louis is going to do an acoustic rendering, because we couldn't have the whole band here.
Yes.
So this is an atypical rendering of this song from Pink Flag called Mr. Suit by Wire.
Wonderful, and here we have to play it right behind you, Louis Calvino. Thank you, Louis.
Tired of being told what you think, tired of being told what to do, tired of fucking phonies that try and tired of you. Alright, no, 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 Mr. Suit. No, 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 Mr. Suit. Yup. Take your fucking money and shove it up your arse. You think you understand? What's a fucking farce? Tired of fucking phonies that try and tired of you. Alright, no, 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 Mr. Suit. No, 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 Mr. Suit. Turn around, walk out that door, take your fucking money, I'll show you what it's for. Tired of fucking phonies, it's right and tired of you. Tired of fucking phonies, it's right and tired of you. Tired of fucking phonies, it's right and tired of you. Tired of fucking phonies, it's right and tired of you. No, 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 Mr. Suit. No, 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 Mr. Suit. No, 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 Mr. Suit.
That was the first song I ever taught my daughter to sing. She's 17 now. I changed the words a little bit, but Louis sang the original, yeah.
Well, I know nothing about the punk world, I must admit, but what always impresses me, and it's also the tweet that is coming for you, the intensity of punk. To me, it's easy to sort of be drunk on that. But I have a tweet for you, and it's from @AllieDrum. Nice for you. She's winning a poster, is she not?
Yes, we have a Jim Ryan, the premier poster artist for the rock world in Chicago. as a Sound Opinions poster.
Woo! Okay, she is winning. Oh dear, now I've lost it. Sorry. Okay, here it is. It's hard to keep up on my phone. When you review so many people, what is it that inspires you? What is it that you see in bands or artists individually that inspires you?
When I was 17, I was a kid in high school in New Jersey, and I had a journalism class. I had to interview a hero in my chosen field, and I spent a long day with Lester Bangs. If you've ever seen Almost Famous, Philip Seymour Hoffman portrays him in the film, and he actually, Cameron Crowe is a friend of mine, he was listening to the tape of me at 17 interviewing Lester to get the cadences. And Lester died 2 weeks after I interviewed him, and I went on to write his biography. What he said, I said, you know, Ernest Young Jim says, what is good rock and roll? And he thought about it for a long time, and it struck me that this guy who had devoted his life to being a rock critic didn't have a rote answer. And he finally said, rock and roll, good rock and roll, is something that makes you feel alive. Now, of course, that can be said of any art. It can be said of Heather's Food Tonight.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the simple definition, good rock and roll makes you feel alive. That, played by wire at full-on intensity, makes me feel pretty fucking alive.
Yeah. So it connects. You connect. You just connect.
Yeah, it's real. It's here, it's immediate, it's not phoned in. I mean, Kimberly, her performance made me feel alive.
Yes. Yes, there she is. She's in the audience. Kimberly, she was great, I have to say. Also,
I mean, there's like talent and stuff involved in what she does as opposed to what Louie and I do. But, you know.
Well, so picking up sort of on this emotional content that we have a little bit going on here, you all really also put yourselves out there. So I think of you having so many bestsellers, it's almost hard to follow up one after another. And then you, of course, bare your soul, among other things. And then you also are, you no holds barred, your opinion, and you're giving it to people all the time. And sometimes, you get in tussles, with Lollapalooza or other things. You definitely are opinionated. And I wonder if you ever feel any fear or trepidation about moving forward.
No, I mean, but as I like to say, I'm too old for them to stop me. So, I'm going to keep doing what I do. I'm going to keep writing, and maybe some of that's the lawyer's training too, because especially when you represent criminal clients, you can't be catering to public opinion. So, I'm glad that my novels have been popular, more than glad. But, I regard it as a blessing to be able to write them. If the train stops, then it stops.
And do you ever worry that, I have to do better than the last one, commercially, I guess?
Well, if you ask any author what is his or her best book, the answer is always the one I am working on now. So.
And when it doesn't feel that way, it's time to, do something else.
Sure, get another book going or something else, anything else. What about you guys?
Stamp collecting.
Yeah. Punk rock, anything.
Yeah, something else.
Yeah, the next number that I do, I always try to make it as good as the last one or better. And, I have big signature acts that I do and that I'm known for, and a reputation to uphold. So, yeah, I do think about things like that. And, I think it's good to do things that scare you. And I do that all the time. So
in a way, that's part of maybe the entertainment factor. People are looking to you all maybe to do the things that are too frightening for them to do. I don't know how you feel about that, because you must have times in your career that you feel you've wanted to hold back or pull back or felt fear.
I think if I feel the fear, that makes me just go harder.
Yeah.
So I'll just do that. If I know that I'm feeling that, then I know that that's the right thing I have to do. So it kind of just depends on the circumstance.
Is there anything of doing what you're most afraid of about what you do? Everybody's got these dreams of waking up and they're naked and they're running down the street.
I actually just had my very first one of those dreams.
You're kidding!
Last month. I've never had this dream ever in my life.
And what were you shouting? This is my show?
No, I'm in my underwear. I can't go out. It was really weird. I've never experienced that dream ever. My dreams are, I can't get my clothes off. Those are my dreams. Seriously, they'll call my name and I'm like, I'm not ready. It's in the wrong costume. the burlesque nightmares, and I freak
You're
out.
too fully clothed.
Yeah. So I just had my first I'm not wearing enough clothes dream.
Wow. How strange. What do you think prompted that?
I have no idea. The marathon was happening. I wanted to make sure I was awake for that. That's all. I didn't run it. Don't worry, you guys.
I didn't run it.
I just wanted to see him.
But I mean, compared to almost every other artist I know, I mean, I mean, not only is your art subject to judgment, but so are your mores.
And, for
and
sure.
your body, and
my
your
body.
shape, and your,
yeah.
that's what I would think is the most hard, is that people are maybe looking with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I think women are just judged all the time. You know, I mean, we're all judged, but women in particular, in our body image and what's supposed to be beautiful and what isn't, and oh, I don't like this part of my body today, I don't like that, and you know, there's a lot of things that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
So, you know, I deal with those things too, and I have. I just kind of put a middle finger up to
Well,
it.
the middle finger, right?
Yeah.
You know, to bring it back
Stronger.
to what Louis just did. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems to me that
It's
the
very
burlesque scene
punk.
in Chicago is very punk right now,
It's very
because it's a
punk.
lot of women who are very brave, and they're not perfect bodies. They are not these airbrushed images that we're fed by this sexist universe. You're getting up and you're expressing yourself. You're saying, "I'm not perfect. I'm having fun."
Yeah, but I also
very
think,
empowering.
you know, the perfection is in the imperfection, and I think that, you know, I teach burlesque, I teach women, and I see the impact that it has on them, on their work lives, family lives, relationships, and it does a body good, that is for sure. But you know, it's learning how to present what you have and present your best assets.
Well, and it gives you self-esteem, doesn't it?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we were talking about this behind stage, that's really like the best beauty tip you could ever have, is self-confidence.
Yeah.
But do you ever run into that with fear of what you're working on, or fear is maybe not the right word, but self-doubt, which is usually what plagues people. You know, even if they're an accountant and trying to switch jobs to investment banking, or you don't have to be in the arts to sort of, you know, question yourself.
You know, I mean, there's a school of criticism that in the rock world it tends to be the more egghead Grill Marcus or Robert Christgau, and I'm a Bangsian. I wrote his biography, you know, and I think that it's your honest emotional reaction to a work of art, and the only reason I'd ever be afraid is if I was holding back.
Right.
Now, this doesn't say that my opinion's right or that I expect anybody to agree with me. I'm telling you how I see the world, and in doing so, I'm not writing just about the piece of art in front of me. I'm writing about my whole worldview and about myself, really.
Right.
You know, and I want to know what you think, too. Because in the way that we all will, I mean, you know, the three of us will sit here and you'll dance. The way that, if we have a great discussion afterwards, right, about what we each saw in your performance, we're all going to come to a better understanding of the performance and of each other. And it's in the dialogue that the magic of criticism happens. But these are old ideas. This is Oscar Wilde and H.L. Mencken. And, you know, I don't know how that gets boiled down to, you know, Entertainment Weekly gave it an A-. You know.
But Jim, do you worry about like losing access? I mean, you mentioned Cameron Crowe. I'm sure there's hundreds of people in the music industry that
who won't talk to me.
That's the question.
Yeah.
That's the question.
Who cares? Who cares? You know what I mean? I don't need that. You know, famously, years ago, Billy Corgan banned me from reviewing the Smashing Pumpkins, and they were debuting all of their second album or third album, Siamese Dream, playing it live at Doubledore before they recorded it. And you know, he said I'm not allowed in, and I said to Joe Shanahan, who owned the club, you know, well, you can't do that. You know, he said, well, it's his performance. I said, okay. So I went and I brought a lawn chair, and you know, Doubledore faces Milwaukee Avenue with the glass,
right, yeah.
and I sat on the other side of the glass window, and it's so much better because all those fucking hipsters at Doubledore never shut up, and I could hear perfectly. And the only downside was it was a night as cold as this.
Oh,
So
gotta be diehard.
it was physically uncomfortable, but I heard the music and I wrote about it, and, you know, and then years later, Billy's like, well, you had some points when you said my lyrics were sophomoric. I was like, yeah, despite all my rage, I'm just a rat in a cage is kind of the stupidest lyric I've ever read, in my opinion. If you love it, good for you.
Well, so I didn't plan on this, but since you've been talking to us about how sound, who's listened to Sound Opinions? Everybody, right? Sound Opinions, yes, Sound Opinions.
Support be easy. You'll get a mug.
But since you're talking about what happens on Sound Opinions, that you and Greg discuss things, and then you sort of look for opinions from other people as well. Maybe this is a great segue to do a little performance, and if you don't mind, then we'll have a little discussion.
Okay, great.
Everybody, Michelle Amour.
I'm stuck. Hold on. My dream is happening.
You good?
You guys, this is also part of my dream.
We've got some gloves, some bras. I think she's still got her underwear.
It's just like the Dick Van Dyke Show, but better.
Much better than the Dick Van Dyke Show. These are great. Thank you. So before we get into the Sound Opinions dialogue, I do have a tweet for you. Okay. And that tweet is at Suzanne Clores, and she wants to know, how do you manage the energy of people's sexual hang-ups?
Wow, that's a
good one, right? Oh, and that person is winning 2 tickets to see you perform at the main stage
on December 6th.
December 6th. And you're also winning a case of Voss water, because I think after you see her perform, you kind of need it.
Okay, what was the question? How do I manage people's hang-ups?
Yes, people's sexual hang-ups.
Right, so that's part of it, because you know, so many people don't know what burlesque is, and they're rarely scared of it. I don't know what they think I'm going to do to them, but I'm really nice, and my costumes are real sparkly. So, you know, it's just a matter of education, that's all. So I feel like if I can educate people that it's not something that you need to be scared of and something that you can enjoy and is not threatening, then I've done my job.
So what came across for me, I'd love to hear what you guys thought, but what came across for me is fun. Just so much fun. And then there I'm back to that authentic. You're having a good time. And when you're having a good time, then I think it's fun.
Yeah, that was just an example of a really classic striptease. Gloves, boa, gown, pasties.
Yes, G-string.
G-string.
There you go.
I have to say what I was thinking about was that...
Tell us, Scott.
Do you want me to read your book?
Well, you know, my beloved who's here often talks about the sort of post-feminist reality that, you know, women are very powerful when their sexuality is freed. That's kind of what I was thinking about, that, you know, this is, I mean, I don't think there was anybody here who could take their eyes off of you. That's really neat to be able to harbor or to summon such a, you know, primal power.
Yeah, it's a great feeling, and it's super addicting. And after the first time I did it, that was it. I used to do concert dance, ballet, and all that stuff, and this is way more fun. I don't know what that noise is, but...
It's your mic. I believe it is way more fun. Jim, you want to weigh in before we get to the next question, which is deeply linked?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I in the classes at Columbia, we talk a lot about this issue of post-feminism, right? And I mean, I don't think we're in a post-feminist world any more than we're in a post-racial world just because we elected a senator from Chicago. You know, and what I find so inspiring about the new wave burlesque dancers that you're a part of is that, you know, I mean, so that punk thing again. There are so many women who are not perfect, but they're enjoying it and being, you know, which is not to say you're not perfect. That's not where I was going. You know,
way to save it.
But you know, you can be short, you can be fat, and Vortis has done several gigs, my punk band, with a burlesque troupe that's led by a. What's the politically correct
Is
word?
it Viva?
She's a Viva.
I'm doing a show with her.
Yeah, Viva La and she is a dwarf.
Yeah.
And she's sexy as hell because she's enjoying doing that kind of dance, and I think that's what's so liberating about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like there's all different body types doing burlesque, so you know, there's not one type of lady that's doing it. There's lots, many tastes, just like this plate.
But you're also showing to people like my daughter, who doesn't have a perfect body, that she could do it if she wanted, and she could have fun. You're showing to anybody that they could do it.
Yes, that liberation from sort of breaking free. Which takes me to my next question, and that is, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say, but also for these two. So, do you have any guilty pleasure? So I think for a lot of people, their guilty pleasure is to do what you do. But now, what's your guilty pleasure? Like, what's left?
Knitting? No.
I was going to ask if knitting was your guilty pleasure.
Absolutely not. No, none of my pleasures make me feel guilty.
Well, something that you secretly feel like, oh gosh, I wouldn't, like, do you, behind closed doors, listen to Britney Spears? I mean...
I worked long and hard to overcome the 12 years of Catholic schooling and overcome the idea of guilt. I mean, you know, that's the problem. This is what your art form is about, right? We're still in this fucking puritanical society.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, how can there be people, how can the two Cheney sisters be fighting with each other, you know, about gay marriage, right? This woman, you know, have you read about that?
Yes,
you know,
yes.
The one, and they've had them over for dinner for the family, and they have kids and stuff, and now this hypocritical woman is carpetbagging, running for Senate in Wyoming and against gay marriage, but she supports her gay sister.
Yeah.
You know,
but her father was like that.
You know, I mean, that we need to get out of this puritanical mindset. And we should all be France. They live better in France and Italy, for Christ's sake.
You know,
France has. I lived in France. I lived in France for 3 years.
Why did you come back?
you know, like you can't do
Because
anything.
there were French there?
Yes,
Is
well,
that-
no, I like the French. I like the French, but you can't get anything done. So if you want to be creative, it's actually not the best place to be creative.
Well, I also want to say that I think it's a testament to the power of burlesque or what I do, that they do get upset about it. I kind of enjoy that. I feel like if everyone suddenly is
loving it,
totally fine, you know, and it's different being in a big city. Like I just got back from Davenport, Iowa, and did shows there, and that was a trip. Because you look out in the audience, and I swear John Deere is sitting there himself. And it's just like, it's just a different world. And when we're in the city, we don't realize how different it is once you get past
the
these
city
borders.
limits. Yes. Well, I want to know if you secretly have a guilty pleasure. Like, do you read, you know, The Far Side when you have time? Or
Well, the Far Side is great.
The Far Side is great.
I don't
50 Shades of Grey?
I have not. I have to, you know, when it comes to literature, I don't do a lot of slumming, just because I don't enjoy it.
It takes up too much time.
It's not, you know, it's not anything beside that. And I have to say, this is one of the more unusual dinners I've had in public. So,
in public, I like that qualification. Well, good for you. Well, segueing just a tad, I wondered, so Scott has a new book out, Identical. Who's read it already? It's fantastic. It is great. In fact, if you'd like to tell everyone briefly about it, go right ahead.
Well, I've had this long time hang-up interest in identical twins. So Identical is about identical twins. One of them is running for mayor in my fictional landscape, Kendall County. The other is being released from prison after serving 25 years for murdering his girlfriend. And the action of the novel is set in motion when the brother of the murder victim accuses not only the brother who pled guilty to the crime, but the one who's running for mayor of having had a hand in the murder. So that's the start of it.
And as I said before, he's going to be signing books. Identical is going to be here, Christmas, Hanukkah people. He's going to be signing books right after this.
Kwanzaa, too, is fine.
And Kwanzaa, too. You can do that, too. I wanted to ask you, you know, having done this now for so many years and put out so many books, is there anything in particular that you learned over the years that you would share that really is sort of your touchstone?
Well, I mean, people who want to write have to understand that writers write. They don't just think about it, they don't talk about it, or merely talk about it. They don't just take classes, they don't hang around in bars with writers, they write. And anybody who puts his or her rear end in a chair and puts, you know, words on paper is a writer, and the people who don't are not.
Yeah, there's no way around the work for writers, that's for sure. I interviewed David Sedaris, and he said the same thing. He writes every day for 4 hours, 8 to noon, except Christmas and New Year's Day. So yeah, there's no way around the work that you do every day. Is there anything that you guys have learned over the years that you would share as like, okay, after being in it for so many years, what's your touchstone that you go to?
You have to enjoy it, otherwise get out.
Yes,
you know,
right. Yes.
Rock and roll, I think, is lousy with bands at the moment, and the same is true of rock critics. You know, I mean, the median age of the Rolling Stones today is 72.
Incredible, yes.
You know, and now they were the greatest band in the world from 62 to 78, which is an extraordinary run, but they have really sucked since 78, and they have now sucked 3 times longer than they were great. And, you know, I mean, it continues because it's this corporation, and every couple of years there needs to be a tour so that they can buy a new Greek island, because they already own a couple each, and it's just like, what's the point? There's no longer a burning desire for them to express themselves. They don't even talk to one another.
Right.
So you know.
But how many artists retire at the top?
Nobody.
I mean, let's be fair.
Salinger. That was a really good model.
Let's
you
be
know.
fair. I would argue even he didn't retire at the top.
It's true, but nobody remembers the post Catcher in the Rye.
Well,
right.
But
he went out pretty near the top.
So it's easy to criticize the Rolling Stones because they're making gazillions of dollars.
He really wasn't out there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think when you no longer feel like you have this burning desire to say something, then shut up. You know.
And you, would you have anything to add to that? Lessons learned over the years?
You know, know what it is that you are doing. Don't let other people change your course.
Stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, with that in mind, I'm wondering what you all are working on now. So I know you just finished a book, so maybe you're giving yourself a break. But no, you're already working on something else.
The best thing to be doing when a book comes out is to be working on another book.
Oh, really?
Well, if you get pillaged by Michiko Kakutani, then you can say, but the next one's going to be much better.
She didn't like my Lester Bangs book either. Let's go kick her ass.
But, not just professionally, because we were talking about the lessons that you've learned. What are you working on now, maybe even personally? So, okay, you're working on another book, but for all of you, both professionally and personally, what are you working on now?
So professionally, I am working on doing a workshop tour for next year. So traveling to those smaller cities that I was telling you about and ruffling some feathers in a big way. So I plan on doing that next year. And, of course, producing shows. We have the big show in December.
Right,
at the main stage. And then we're already preparing for Valentine's Day.
Oh, sure,
which I think might be happening here.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
So it seems like it's so far away, but it's only 3 months away. So I'll be working on a new act for that.
You know what? Just take your mic and move it a little bit closer to your mouth. Yeah, thanks.
I'll be working on a new act for that show. And then, what else am I working on?
And what about personally?
Personally, I am working on trying to be present.
Oh, so true.
It's really difficult. Like when you run your own business and you worry about all of these things, all these, the overhead. I know I'm not wearing a lot right now.
I was going to say, where's the overhead?
But you'd be surprised at the amount of bags I have to take everywhere to sit like this. Silly. So, costumes are expensive.
Right,
Rent's expensive.
Yes.
So, instead of being distracted by all of those things, I'm trying to just be here.
And you two, what are you working on now that either professionally or personally?
I'll tell you something really silly. When you're doing what you love, it sometimes can be hard to not be working. I teach criticism, and I write criticism for the BEZ blog, and I talk about it on the radio, and even playing in the band with Louie. It's a more physical version, but it's still music. But I also paint and sculpt historical miniatures.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm a complete geek.
Did you guys know that?
Yeah. No, I'm working on this box diorama of when Napoleon invaded Italy in the 1790s. The French stabled their horses, the cavalry, in St. Marie della Grazia, which happens to be the church where Leonardo painted the Last Supper. And so it's a scene of the horses stabled in the Last Supper chapel. Because there's a world show that happens every 3 years. And I'm such a geek, I go to each one. The last one was in Montreux, and I got a silver medal. Yeah.
Wow!
It's no big accomplishment. They give as many silvers as there are silvers, as many gold. So I'm bringing, but this one is north of Milan in Stresa, which is where Hemingway wrote A Farewell to Arms. And so I'm bringing this tribute to Italian history and French history.
It's wonderful to have many facets, and you have
it's
quite
really
a few.
Good. But even when I'm doing that, I've got to be listening to the new MIA album. Yeah.
So I have a tweet for Scott, actually, and this person is going to win a signed book by Scott himself. We'll have it for you right after the show, and he's free to sign. And it's from Summer McGee, PhD. Do you have a fun way of dealing with or getting rid of writer's block?
Usually I read what I've already written, but that's very hard at the beginning of a book because there's nothing there. So the beginning is hard. But, I do believe you have to stay in the chair. And you don't have to stay there for 4 hours. It's not work release, but you do need to give yourself a chance to write and to think.
So what happens when you sit at the table and nothing comes?
Well, this is one of the advantages of being older and having been through, virtually everything as a writer, which is I get up. It's I don't need to escape, my guilt. I get up and I know that tomorrow is likely to be better.
There's a wonderful quote that I love from Isabel Allende, who says, "I show up, I show up, and at some point, the muse shows up too.
Right.
So I guess if you just keep going back to that desk, at some time it's going to go your way.
Right.
In theory.
I was taught by the great Wallace Stegner, and Wally used to say, I write 2 pages a day, every day, except Christmas, and I do it because at the end of the year there are 730 pages, and in 730 pages there has to be something worth saving.
So you're giving yourself at least a pool from which to draw.
Right.
Well, maybe we could have you read a little bit from
Okay.
your new book. Did you bring one with you up here?
Yeah,
Excellent.
I have it up here.
Lovely. So we're going to hear an excerpt from Identical, Scott Turow.
Now I have to find what I'm meant to read, but in the interval, those of you who see me at the microphone and who watched Michelle's beautiful performance, I would like to reassure all of you that I'm not even going to take off my sport coat. So, the sort of
Take it off. Poor Scott.
the problem.
Oh dear. Oh, I'm sorry.
I lost my microphone.
It's harder than it looks, right?
Can we okay, this is live. You know, Adlai Stevenson once watched the entire text of a speech blow away, and he looked at the audience and he said, well, you really haven't missed much. A sort of star of Identical, the unwitting star, is an 81-year-old former homicide detective named Tim Brody, and he's the character who ran away with the book. And so this is a little excerpt about Tim's background. When he was born, Tim's family, the 5 of them, had lived in a 1-bedroom, 3rd-story walk-up about a mile from here. He was the baby, the unexpected child who came 8 years after his brother, 10 years after his sister. His mother was a frail woman whose nose was always running and who seemed beleaguered by her life. It was his father who held it all together. He was a big man, bigger even than Tim grew to become, who roared rather than spoke, and generally extolled life, and certainly his wife and his children. Whenever he arrived home, Tim was overjoyed. When Tim was 6, his father, a yard man on the Chicago and Northwestern, fell between 2 cars and was killed, sliced in half, according to accounts Tim heard years later. His mother was simply beyond herself, shattered by her husband's death. Tim's sister, 16 then, left home, and his brother was parceled out to his mother's sister. But at the age of 6, a bit rambunctious and morose with the loss of his father, Tim was too much for any relative to take on, and his mother deposited him with a brown lacquered valise at St. Mary's home, telling him she would be back for him soon. She never came. He cried himself to sleep for over a year. Most of his buddies on the police force who had Catholic educations tended to down-talk the nuns, telling stories about how the sisters wrapped their knuckles with rulers, making out most of them as these dried-up, sexually deprived bitches who'd found their marriage to Jesus as unhappy as everybody else's. But the sisters and brothers who cared for Tim at St. Mary's, and him not even born Catholic, they had saved his life. They were kind and full of faith in the goodness and potential of every child. Even as a kid, missing his mother and his father every day, there was a piece of him that knew he was better off there. He started playing the trombone. Sister Aloysius gave it to him, and he got good. That horn, son, she said, will get you out of here. It got him a place in the Marine Corps band, and that in turn got him a place at City College. He was 24, playing nights in jazz clubs, when his mother walked by him on the street, her arms full of brown grocery bags. He said nothing, but trailed her all the way to a tenement. She went through the door before he could get inside, but he stood on the street and watched the lights go on in a 4th-floor window. When another tenant emerged, he went in. His mother stood there on the threshold, staring at him. Then her nose turned red, and she lifted her apron to her eyes as she cried. "Oh, Tim," she said, "Tim, I didn't know what to do." He heard a child complain inside the apartment, and a girl about 10 reached her mother's side and stared at him darkly. His mother invited him in. He declined out of sheer confusion. Maria had invited Tim's mother and his 3 step-siblings every year at Christmas, and they came, but Tim had no feeling for them. Instead, he regarded himself as blessed to have his wife, his daughters, and his brother. He had people to love who, best of all, loved him too. He didn't feel it made sense to waste the energy on relationships that would only pull him under some emotional waterfall in which he'd never catch his breath.
Scott Turow, a joy to have him in the house. I want to immediately get to the Sound Opinions Roundtable of Scott Turow, but I have forgotten to thank my sponsors, so let's run that really quickly, and in the interim, we'll get you hooked up on your mic.
Voss artesian water from Norway. Splendidly still or luxuriously sparkling. Voss artesian water from Norway.
Disaster Planning and Response Art Rescue is a first responder for the world of art, providing planning, packing, evacuation, conservation, and storage for all your treasured possessions.
So we're back. We're back here with Jim DeRogatis, Michelle Lamour, and Scott Turow. So my initial reaction to that when doing the WBEZ Sound Opinions Roundtable on Scott's reading, my initial reaction to that is so much thought must go in before you even hit the page because you're working on these character developments. Is that true?
There's a lot of writing that goes on before, and in the case of Tim Brodie, as I said, he's the character who ran away with the novel, and I wrote reams about him that I ultimately cut from the book just because I liked it. But that particular story was actually based on an anecdote I heard from a very old man in Arizona, and he had ended up being deposited in an orphanage.
So you end up reusing things that you hear along the way throughout your life.
Right. Never tell your secrets to a writer.
True enough. You guys, any thoughts? Sound Opinions,
that was the best freaking nun joke I've heard in a long time. Love a good nun joke.
I went to Catholic school my whole life, too.
Sister Marietta in 3rd grade fucked me up, but good.
See, now that's, talk about post-feminist world. My nuns were the most feminist people I've ever met. They really put me on a very feminist track because I didn't have, I was in an all-girls school, and they were only interested in educating women, and so, because you didn't have to worry if you raised your hand what the boys might think, it was really very empowering, and they really encouraged that, you can get married if you want at some point, but first let's get you educated, and it was really wonderful.
See, my nuns were troublesome, but the old boys Catholic high school, they were all these, there were 2 kinds of Christian brothers. They were the same guys who made the wine, Christian Brothers wine, right? So that was their, so they were the old jolly ones who loved the wine, right? And then there were all these young guys who had, enlisted's the wrong word, they had heard the calling from God to avoid Vietnam. They had all come from rural Pennsylvania, and they became a brother, and not any of them were brothers anymore.
Yes, right, that doesn't surprise me.
But they were pretty cool teachers.
See, I had the exact opposite. Loved the nuns, didn't really feel that way about priests. He and I could go on for a long time. I won't do that to you. So let's see what Heather Tarun is cooking in the kitchen for our entrees.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Heather. I'm here to show you how to do a grilled pork belly with a roasted butternut squash puree, crispy kale, and a maple gastric. So first, we're going to start with the pork belly. And this is something we do ahead of time. So we cure it, and then we smoke them here in-house, and then we braise it. I'm going to grill it because I think that adds more to the smokiness. So all we do is we take the pork belly, and I'm going to season it with a little bit of pepper only, since we've already cured it in sugar and salt. While that's grilling, I'm just going to take a little saute pan. We're going to heat up the maple gastrique, which this is just a simple mixture. You're basically making a caramel. We add vinegar to it. In this case, we're going to add apple cider vinegar, and we added maple syrup. So and then it's got a little bit of chicken stock, or we actually use the pork reduction from when we braised the pork belly. So we're just going to warm it up a little bit. It can be room temperature as well. So then we're going to put a little bit of butter in the pan. This is how we're going to heat up the butternut squash puree. I like to brown the butter a little bit. It adds to the nuttiness of the dish. And then this is just roasted butternut squash puree. All we did is roast the butternut squash. We cut it in half, took out the seeds. We roasted it in an oven until it was soft. And then we just put it through a food mill with a little bit of butter and salt and pepper. That's really one of the simplest things that you can make. And this is the best time of the year for squash. I'm going to simply just season it with salt and pepper. And this is something you could do ahead of time as well. You just put a pan in a water bath and then just keep it hot, so you can have more fun with your guests when you're having a dinner party. I always find I spend all my time cooking in the kitchen when I'm having dinner with friends, so it's kind of a way to do more ahead of time. All right, I'm just going to pull the pork belly off. So it looks great. It's nice and caramelized on the outside. You'll see how the skin has gotten very crispy. All right, so the last thing that this dish is going to get is a little bit of fried kale. This is just kale leaves that we've just taken off the ribs and washed and then dried. You can do this at home too in a fryer. It gets a little bit, makes a lot of dramatic noises, so if you don't want to fry it, you could definitely bake it in the oven. So just drop it in the fryer. You just want to cook it until it really stops clapping and having its applause for you, as we call it. You can certainly saute kale as well if you don't want to fry it, but we like the crunchiness of it. All right, so I already have some kale I've already cooked ahead of time. So this dish is just going to get a spoonful of the squash puree. We're going to put a slice of the pork belly right on top. This is the maple gastrique. It's kind of sweet and sour, so it really enhances the flavor of the pork and brings out the natural sweetness of the squash. A little bit of the flake sea salt, and then we just put some of the fried kale leaves right on top. That's it. So this is the pork belly with the roasted butternut squash puree, maple gastrique, and crispy kale. Thank you so much for joining us. You can come and visit me here at Sable Kitchen and Bar at 505 North State Street here in River North. You can also visit our website at sablechicago.com. For more information, come and see me. I'm always here.
Heather, wonderful. She's worked so hard. Hopefully she'll come up and join us at the table. Wonderful. Heather Turow, have a seat. Have a seat.
Thanks.
So, we were talking over the break about, self-confidence, and, we're always talking about women's self-confidence, but also, men's self-confidence. And I'm wondering, cooking is such a male-dominated field, and I'm wondering why there aren't more women chefs. And
Because it's hard.
Because of the hours, you mean? Because it's physically demanding?
Well, I mean, you have to give up a lot. I'm not married, I don't have kids, so you have to decide, really, as a woman, whether you're going to choose to have a family or you're going to choose a career. I chose a career and I have no regrets, but I think you can have both, you just can't have it all at the same time.
So,
but male chefs.
Yeah, it's true.
Male chefs have both, right?
They do.
Yeah,
and
that's really different.
Yes and no. I mean, in general, this business is a lot of hours, whether you're single or you're married or whatever. It depends on what it is that you want to do. So I mean, yes, it is male-dominated. I mean, there's a whole thing that came out.
Yes.
Male chefs, they feel women got snubbed on Time magazine. And I mean, we don't feel snubbed, to be very honest with you. Everybody works hard. I hate the whole, oh, women in the kitchen. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. I grew up in a male-dominated field. It still is male-dominated. I don't feel slighted by it. It's just you have to work hard. You have to work hard for anything that you do, whether you're male or female. So I think women chefs kind of get a bad rap sometimes because they're like, oh, you've sacrificed so much. Men sacrifice as well. So.
And we were talking about self-confidence before, the difference between female and male self-confidence, and I'm wondering if you notice anything in the kitchen where there's a lot of bravado. Is there a lot of sort of play up of the self-confidence?
I mean, there's not a lot of women in the kitchen. I have a few female chefs that are cooks, but like my male chefs, my sous chefs love that I'm in charge because it kind of mellows everybody out. Right, women in the kitchen kind of mellow things out, and it's
nice.
All my best friends are men, and better get along better with men.
All my best friends are men.
Well, I'm bossy.
How open-minded of you! All your best friends are men.
All my best friends are men.
Hey Heather, I got a question for you. So I'm fascinated about, chefs are the new rock stars.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, but in my experience, the couple of dozen Chicago chefs I've met, there's two kinds, right?
Yeah.
There's the ones who are not looking for the spotlight. They're
Right.
cooking, all right? They're working hard. And then there's the ones who want to be a star.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this new phenomenon? I mean, it's like Justin Bieber and Kurt Cobain, right? Kurt would have played for 40 people. He could play for 400,000.
Right.
Bieber's out for something different.
I mean, I think it's different realms of where you are in your career and what you're looking for. I mean, listen, when I went to culinary school, there was no Food Network and this boom of food television. It was Julia Child is who I grew up watching. I'm 42, so it's a different world. I mean, it's a different. I looked for culinary schools in the back of food magazines, which was Bon Appetit or Gourmet magazine. There were 3 schools at the time. Now it's much more prevalent that this is the career that people choose. I mean, if you're looking to be a celebrity, I think it doesn't matter what field you're in. Being a chef is something that you have to be super passionate about. It's a lot of hours. You have to focus and dedicate your life to cooking and your career. It's like being an artist, really, in any sort of realm. There's a lot of artists, whether you're a writer or a dancer or or a sketch artist or whatever. You have to be passionate about whatever it is that you're thinking. And I think that's why we're all here.
But do you think this phenomenon of chefs on television is sending the wrong message to some people? I mean, it's not about
it is a production. Listen, Top Chef is not something I thought I would ever do. They asked me to do it, and I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. I never thought I would do it, and then I did it, and I thought it was great. It was very rewarding, and it was fun and competitive, and all the things that I love to do, and I met great chefs, and I thought it was pretty amazing. But it's a television production at the end of the day. I learned a lot about TV, and a lot about how it really is, because what you felt on the show during the filming is not what was perceived, because we're making TV.
Right. And how to sort of take a flip on what Jim is asking, how do you feel when you see people standing in line to eat what you regard as really bad food?
I like that question.
I'm really snooty when it comes to food, so I find most restaurants under-season their food, which is annoying. I mean, I keep a secret tin of Altoids in my purse, but it doesn't have Altoids in it. It has sea salt. And I'm always like, my friends always wait for me to taste first. Because I'm always like, they're like, how? I'm like, wait. And I'm like quickly season their food because I think a lot of people don't use enough salt. But I don't know. I mean, everybody likes what they like, right? And cringe when family members that I have, they're like, oh, I just love that Sbarro pizza. I'm like, really? It's gonna
really? But do you have a guilty pleasure? Do you have like
No, I don't know. I don't know. I always think about, like, people ask me that all the time. Do I have a guilty pleasure if I like really something, Kraft macaroni and cheese out of a box? I didn't grow up eating that way, so I never really, like, we never had sugared cereals or whatever. I would say I love ice cream, but I like gourmet ice cream. Jenny's ice cream just opened on Southport. If you haven't been.
But not like Poochie's or Super Dog or.
I do love Super Dog, but that's like a Chicago icon.
Yes, right, something
Chicago
different. Yes.
Icon, but You know, people are like, you don't like Chicago pizza? Sorry, no. My parents are from the East Coast, so I grew up eating East Coast style.
Yeah, this ain't pizza out here. I grew up in New Jersey. This ain't
Right?
pizza.
It's different.
Oh,
It's
you're going to
different.
get
You
mugged
and
in the
Jon
alley on
Stewart.
your way home. I don't know.
Now, me and Jon Stewart. It's
You
not
and Jon
pizza.
Stewart. But-
So has it been hard to follow up after Top Chef? Because all that spotlight, and then you sort of have to come out of there and, you know, still perform.
Well, it's funny. People think that you go on a reality show or you go on TV and automatically you're not working in your restaurant. Well, that's not true. We're all working.
Right,
chefs,
still working,
right?
yeah.
This is my career. It's not I did TV and then I thought I was going to be famous. I honestly don't care. I did it because I thought it would be fun, and it really was a lot of fun. And it's been great for the restaurant. It's been great for Sable. It's been great for me. It's spun other things for me, other opportunities,
yes.
and. I mean, it was really like, for a career move, it was smart, like, of me to actually do that.
But how then do you balance any sort of life with all these hours?
You can. You got to meet me like at midnight if you want. No, that's not true. I get 2 days off a week. I mean, I think it's all about work-life balance. And
Right.
I work for a great company who really believes in spending time outside of work. So, I mean, it's really all of it's quality work, not quantity. So it is long hours, but I have plenty of help. So some weeks are busier than others, but that's the restaurant business, right? We're working when other people are off.
So a tweet for you. Oh, you lucky person. Tanya G. Millinery is getting dinner for 2 at Sable. Nice job.
Oh, yes, I
Dinner
have to
for
give
2
you the
at
gift card.
Sable.
Don't let me forget to give
Yeah,
it to you.
we won't forget to get that gift. She's
Take my
very
bag.
jealous. Nice for you. She wants to know, how do we bring up and coming female chefs in Chicago?
How do we do it?
Yeah.
I think that they have to really do it for themselves. I mean, you have to
No
just work hard.
incubation, nothing to
You
sort
just
of
need to
foster.
work hard, honestly. I mean, you have to work hard. If you can't lift a stock pot, you better get stronger. You better learn how to do it yourself, because there's not going to be anybody behind you to help you. It's kind of a double standard if you think about it. If you think about what, nobody would ever say that to a man. Oh, what do you do to put him in the spotlight? It's your choice, honestly, and what you do and how driven you are, how hard you're working, and are you being innovative, and are you being nice to people? Because you have to really, the chef is the face of the restaurant. You got to be a good PR person. You got to be present. You don't have to work constantly, but you need to be personable and you need to be out there. And a lot of chefs are shy, painfully shy, which a lot of people probably don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I know, I had David Manilow on this show a little while ago, and he was saying, if you think back in the 70s and the 80s, the most important person in the restaurant was the maitre d'. They could get you the great spot, they could find you the table, you would slip them some money, you would look important in front of your friends, and now, of course, and the chefs were in the back of the house, where they like to be, actually, because a lot of them are really shy.
Right.
But now the most important person in the restaurant is the person from the back, the chef who has to come to the front. And that's
Well,
what
in
you
most
see.
restaurants now, we have open kitchens, right? You've never seen that, like 15, 20. Oh, it's innovative. You can see inside, and some of the best seats at Sable are right by the restaurant. You can talk to the chef, and if you ask to put you in the 60s, that's my section.
The 60s?
The 60s,
Okay.
61
Okay, so we're
through
all going,
65.
we're going to sit in the 60s, Sable.
Yep, you could just tell them you want a table close to the kitchen because you also get perks. If the cook's fire extra food, you get it.
What the heck?
I know. See, inside secrets you don't know.
Okay.
And there's so many great chefs. Chicago's a great culinary community here, and the chefs are so tight. And it's not a lot of jealousy like there is in some other cities that I've lived in. And it's really great to be in a city like Chicago and have so many different kinds of cuisines and restaurants to go to.
Yes.
Matt Murgis just opened his new restaurant, A10, which I'm excited to go to tomorrow. So
Cool.
these chefs still have fun.
But why have men taken over? Is it because, in the old world, men didn't cook much at home, so if they wanted to cook, they had to do it professionally?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. When I went to culinary school, there were 49 students in my class and 7 women. I mean, so even then in the late 90s, it was still male dominated. I think it's hard. Being a chef is hard. It's a lot of hours, and it's not as, it's fun, but you have to have a lot of drive and determination and stamina. And
it's like rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this business of driving for 11 hours to get to the gig and then hauling the gear and then playing the show and then putting the gear back, and then you sleep on the floor in a puddle of cat piss, and then you get up and you do it again. You know,
I do that in heels, baby.
Exactly. There was a great punk rock band that had roots in Chicago in the 90s called L7. They were from Oak Lawn. You know, and the thing that they always said is, we're not going to be inequality in rock and roll. Until you stop saying we're a great female rock band, we're just a great fucking rock band.
Right.
And you are just a great chef. You're not a great female chef.
Well,
you're a great chef.
You know, the term I hate the most is, what's it like being a lady chef?
Lady chef.
Well, just a chef. I don't know what it's like being a lady chef. But
You say, I'm no lady.
yeah.
So I have a question, a tweet for all of you. Jeannie M. Folk would like to know, and Jeannie, by the way, nice job. You're getting CDs from Kimberly Gordon because she was so great. So good for you. Jeannie Folk wants to know, what does the future hold for all of you? Where do you think you'll be 5 years from now? Starting with you.
I'd like to be where This American Life is. They're on like 450 stations.
Gosh, yes.
We're on like 160 on a good day, and then maybe Vermont might have dropped us. Who knows? Yeah, that'd be nice.
I've had Peter Sagal on this show, which was wonderful, but Ira Glass...
Peter's on like 450
Yeah,
stations.
no, he was wonderful. And
What's
such
he
a nice
got that
guy.
I don't got? I don't know.
You're coming. All right, so you're on the rise in 5 years.
And teaching. I think teaching is I love teaching at Columbia. It's nice to be able to talk about this thing I love doing, which is writing and writing about the arts.
Yes, I can see that just from the little that I know you right here. What about you, 5 years out?
Well, my big production dream is to do a big show at the Chicago Theater. I think it's
you'll nab that before 5 years?
beautiful. I'd love it.
Yes.
I just need a lot of money, you guys.
Okay, so the way...
Can we do a Kickstarter?
Well, the way to do that is all of us, all 150 of us, we should go take a class at yours, Studio L'Amour.
Yeah, class will be $5,000 a piece.
We're investing in learning.
Yes.
Yes. And you, 5 years from now?
I mean, for sure, I'm still cooking. I don't know. I mean, there's opportunity everywhere.
Yes.
I don't know. I love the company that I work with, Kimpton, but, I mean, who knows? I've had a lot of opportunities in the past 2 years, so I want to write a cookbook at some point. I don't know. It's tough.
Well, talk to
you
these
also
two.
need a lot of money.
So her class. How much is her class?
Yeah, we need
Do
a
you
lot of money.
teach? Do you do any? No time probably.
Not right now. I mean, I do stuff for Green City Market and Common Thread, some more charity stuff, but I would.
Yeah.
I would, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I never say no. I always think about things, so.
And you, sir?
You know, you started out by saying that, we're people whose dreams came true.
Yes.
And my dream really has. So my hope is that I remain healthy and that I can keep doing what I'm doing, because I really have a gas.
Not
I
a
have
bad
a great
gig.
life.
Not a bad. And you also practice law. You still do that, correct?
I do.
Yes.
So, we hope we have the strength to go on.
Speaking of strength, someone has been working for a very long time. Let's check in with our wonderful Rosemary. Rosemary, how's it going over there? Rose, I don't know if you can see what she's working on from where you are. Let's show us a little show and tell, because I just see what you did here of Michelle, and that's pretty great.
She's so good.
She is so good. I'm going to hold up some of these for you. Look at this.
This is Michelle. She's so fabulous to draw.
Oh my word, can you see this? Can you see how gorgeous that is? She's really so talented. Hopefully the camera can get this as well.
Somehow, Michelle, I don't think the rest of us are going to look
It's
like
all
that.
downhill from this point on. That's right.
Can I give this to Michelle? Okay, so this is for you, actually. She's been working away on your behalf. I'm going to put this right back here so that you can get it at the end. And I'll do a little show and tell for you, Miss Rosemary.
So pretty.
Can Scott and I get one of Michelle too?
I'm sorry, you're getting yourself. Oh, gosh, look at this, you guys. It says everybody. Look at that. She's been working so hard. Look at that, the wonderful Rosemary. So I'll put this back here for everybody. So, Rosemary, I want to ask you, where do you think you're going to be in 5 years?
Where am I going to be in 5 years? I don't know exactly, other than I want to continue to do what I do And I know in 5 years I'll be better than I am today.
Yes.
And so the great thing about being an artist, as everybody knows, is you're always improving. So we're always getting older, that's okay, but we're always going to improve in our art. So I'm looking forward to that. And I just love what I do.
Yes, yes, that comes through as well. Wonderful for you. So I have one quick question, because we're just about out of time here. On the dot, my gosh. One quick question, one word answer from everybody. Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for? But you cannot say your pets or your family or your children. You have to say something else. Thanksgiving, one word answer. Starting with you. You've got the mic. What are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for my gift that I'm able to do this. And so that's what I'm really thankful for.
An inborn talent.
Yes.
Wonderful. Inborn talent. Sir, what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for an album called Silence Yourself by a band from the UK called Savages. Best record I've heard since Nirvana's Nevermind.
Really?
Album of the year.
Say it again so we can all go get it.
Savages. And the record's called Silence Yourself.
Okay,
And
noted.
they're even better live.
Noted. You, what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful to all of my fans.
Yes.
Without you, I wouldn't be able to sit here and drink wine with all of you.
Yes, wonderful. And you?
I'm thankful for the farmers who still continue to work for chefs and help us keep our passion alive.
Yes, wonderful. That is really great. Yes.
Great books, great readers, and art in general.
Yes.
I'm grateful to have it in my life and in our world.
Wonderful. I definitely echo that and feel very much the same. I would like to say that I'm grateful that I live in a city where you can have an idea and the city will really embrace that. If you're willing to work for it and you're really willing to go out there, Chicago is really a place where it's relatively warm in its reception and it respects people who work hard. And so I'm very grateful for that. Right before we end, I would like to say one more thing. I wish this for everybody in the audience, and I have very much wish this for myself as well. So Charlie Trotter passed away, as we know, and I never worked with him personally. I did eat in the kitchen once at his kitchen table, and I saw him go up to a chef, and he said, "Do you have salt at your station?" And the chef said, like this, sort of stunned, and he said, "Then use it." That's my only interaction with Charlie Trotter. So he definitely was a force to be reckoned with and a personality, but he lived his passion every day. And he didn't let anyone get in his way, and he really paved a way for so much that happened in Chicago and in the United States culinarily. So I would like to raise a glass. Charlie Trotter for everything that he's done. For
And also one of the most fabulously generous people.
And one of the most fabulously generous people, so that you can live by your passion, as Charlie Trotter did. So of course I am thankful to all of you for coming tonight, because your energy just is so important as we work off the stage. I want to thank City Winery, because my gosh, they know what they're doing. They're so good here, so thank you to them for organizing this. Please look at your screens. It takes an enormous amount of people to put this show together, so I thank my entire team. I, of course, thank Jim DeRogatis, Sound Opinions on WBEZ. Michelle Lamour for showing us her art. Heather Tayroon for keeping us so well fed. We're all going to Sable, people. Everybody at Sable. Scott Turow, it's wonderful to have you here. Such a joy and a treat. He's going to be signing books, Christmas, Hanukkah presents for you. And Rosemary Fanti for giving us just extra entertainment and extra art. So if you thought this was fun, and let's face it, it was, our next show, January 20th, we're right here. We're going to have Chef from Everest, Chef Joho, yes. We have film critic, almost as much fun as a music critic, Richard Roper. We have Chris Neville from Tributosaurus. I just love them. I don't know how you feel about them, but I do love what they do. It's just so much fun. Okay, fair enough. Chris Neville will be here. I'll be here. My name is Elysabeth Alfano. You guys, thank you for coming, and happy holidays.